Father, Yah, we come before you today, Father, on your set-apart day to give you praise and worship, Father. We would ask that everything that we learn today may be edifying to us, Father, that we may learn more about your word and things that we should do and things we should not do, Father. I want to thank you for those who are here and thank you for those who wish to be here, Father. All these things we ask in your Son's, your only begotten Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, Father. Amen.
And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath for the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Hallelujah.
All right, shalom, y'all. How y'all doing? All praises. Yeah, we'll pick up where we left off. We're gonna keep on moving through Genesis. Like I said, we're taking it long and slow, so we on chapter 4 today. Like I said, hopefully by this time next year we'll be done with the whole book. Yeah. All right, so disclaimer. Scriptures expressed in the study are those of the author, not my own. Viewer discretion is advised. Guidelines for the lesson. We want to let all things be done with decency and order, so help us better serve one another. The lessons are intended to be interactive. Please ask all questions, make statements in a microphone so that everybody can hear you. We want to be mindful of the time, so please limit responses to roughly 60 seconds or less. This will give others an opportunity to ask questions and give input. We want to stay on topic. If you have questions that don't pertain to the topic of the lesson, please hold those until after the study. This will help us better serve the question and give it the proper attention it deserves. And if we move on from a point, you don't get a chance to ask your question or make your statement, if by the end of the study it still hasn't been addressed, please hold this until the end of the study and we can revisit it. These are live studies going on YouTube, so everything is on the net and live. All right, so just keep all that in mind. All right, so Genesis chapter 4. I'm going to jump right in because we got quite a bit of ground to cover today. All right, so, but I'm gonna go back to something that we touched on last week at the end of chapter 3. All right, so Genesis chapter 3, starting at verse 23, it says, Therefore Yahuwah Elohim sent him forth, him being Adam, from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way of the tree of life. All right, so let me ask y'all a couple questions before we get into what's on the slide. First thing, what do y'all get from this? I promise it's not a trick question. Go ahead, Zakane.
All praises. Actually, from what I'm looking at, now that Adam and Eve have sinned, that he's keeping them away from the tree of life so that they cannot continue to live forever in sin.
All praises.
It's pretty evident that Yah is pretty upset with with Adam and Eve. This is one of the reasons why he blocked the way to the Messiah and expelled them out of the Garden of Eden. This is a very difficult part of the scriptures because there's so much that a lot of people will not cover because it's hard to understand. But right now, there's consequences behind your actions. And with them being unable to get to the tree of life now, so they pretty much going to have to depend on their own wits, pretty much.
All praises.
So what I see, just like Zakane said, they sinned, and so they won't get back to that tree of life and live forever. But also, they got kicked out the house. This place where they were to till the land and to keep it and to watch over it, and they got kicked out, just like they got kicked out of the land of Israel. I'm seeing the same thing happening, and they're basically in the wilderness right now, them being kicked out.
All praises.
What I also see is that related to us, how we are striving to reach eternal life, you need permission. There's requirements for you to be able to receive that life that we all desire and want. So I just see that without Abba Yahuwah's permission, you're not going to be able to receive that life, to be able to eat of that tree.
All praises, because that tree pops back up in Revelation, and it said that they might have right to the tree of life, but that comes with some requirements out of you, right? Just like for them, it would have required some obedience out of them, right? And the minute that they disobeyed, then they lost that right? You got something, Mark?
Just from us, how we was in our land, and when we sinned, we got kicked out, and we only can go back to the land with his permission.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you got cherubims blocking that access, but also when we left the land, life becomes hard.
Mm-hmm.
We are working hard just to survive.
Mm-hmm.
One would have to understand this was a major turn of events because prior to that, there was no sin. This is what separated us from the Father. And our main goal now is getting back to him. But this was a major event because prior to that, there was no sin.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk and walk with the Father, So this was, this changed a lot. This changed everything.
All praises.
Just real quick, just bouncing off what all three of them just said. This is basically the main duty. We're all fighting to get back. We're all fighting to get back home.
Mm-hmm. All praises. So have y'all ever asked the question, what is a they say cherubim or a cherubim? Have y'all ever wondered what they even are? They blocking the way to the tree of life, flaming swords. Or what are these? So we're gonna look at that, and then what are they doing here? We went over it, right? They're blocking the way to Eden, to the tree of life. They must be mighty powerful, right? Because if we could have found a way to get back, we would have, right? If we could have kicked the door in by force, we would have. So, okay. So, you know what? I skipped a part. So, Strong's. I'm going to read the Strong's definition. H3742, a cherub. All right. So, in Hebrew, I know it's CH in English, but in Hebrew, it's cherub. All right. So, y'all going to hear me say cherubim. All right. Of uncertain derivation. Now, they say that they don't know where this word comes from. Strong's did, right? He says a cherub or a cherub or imaginary figure. Cherubim. All right, so imaginary figure. Do y'all agree with Strong's on that? Ain't nothing imaginary about these things, right? So this is the reason why sometimes you got to go a little bit beyond just what Strong's understanding of a thing is, because here these things are very important, and keep in mind the Most High must really trust them. Okay, so all praises. So we're gonna get to that part, right? These are major players. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And again, imaginary figure. So I said, okay, let's keep digging. Yeah, right. All right, so Brown Jarvis Briggs, this is a Hebrew lexicon. All right, so cherubim, it's an angelic being. All right, we getting a little bit warmer. As guardians of Eden, as flanking Elohim's throne. That's what Zaken was just talking about. As an image from hovering over the Ark of the Covenant. So we know that they are two. There was two of them placed on the lid or on the top of the ark, right? And there's a reason for that. And then it says as the chariot of Yahuwah, figuratively, all right? And there's a reason why they say that. You had to, if you go back and look at like Ezekiel chapter 1, Ezekiel chapter 10, you'll see why Brown Jarvis Briggs has that there. All right, has anybody ever seen those pictures of those two little Cupid-looking things, right? So this is what they're and I don't know if this was a Renaissance or whatever time period this was that this art was coming out of. That's how they started to depict these cherubs as these little innocent, little childlike Cupid-looking things. We think that's what it was that was sitting there guarding the. Right. Right. So yeah, butter. Yeah, you're right. A butterscotch, a peppermint. Like, man, why is it always a candy you don't nobody want? Man, y'all telling y'all age. The only people that I've ever seen like the butterscotches are adult. Like no kid wants the butterscotch. No kid wants the peppermint. Like it's an acquired taste. So all right, it says cherubim or cherubim are powerful angelic beings described in the Bible as guardians and bearers of Elohim's throne. Associated with his glory and wisdom, they have a variety of forms in Scripture, including monstrous figures with multiple faces, such as an ox, a lion, eagle, and man. Wings and numerous eyes, as well as winged figures on the Ark of the Covenant. The modern popular image of cherubim or cherubim as cute baby-like angels is a later artistic interpretation and is not consistent with their biblical depiction. All right, so just, again, keep that in mind. Now, I wonder why somebody I'm not going to even sidetrack. All right, I'm going to keep it moving. All praises. So, the Hebrew word cherub, plural cherubim or cherubim, is widely considered by scholars to be a loan word derived from the Akkadian, the language of ancient Akkad, which in Akkadian they have the term karibu or karubu. All right, so now remember in Strong's, they said of unknown derivation. They don't know where this word comes from, right? But most scholars understand that no, they know exactly whatever these cherubim are. Hebrews aren't the only people that know about them. I'm gonna put it that way. Y'all see where I'm going with this. All right, so in Akkadian and broader Mesopotamian mythology, the Karibu were lower-level divine beings or genies. Now, I ain't write all of this, all right? I'm just, right now, we gathering information. Y'all know how I like to do. All right, often depicted as colossal winged guardian spirits with human, animal, or bird-like characteristics such as human-headed bulls or lions, known as Lamassu. In Assyria, their primary functions were guarding monumental entrances to palaces and temples. Now, keep in mind, what are the cherubim doing in the book of Genesis? They're guarding. Okay, so y'all remember how I told y'all in the beginning of this, like you have to get an understanding of this in the context of the ancient Near East as a whole, right? Because you're going to start to see that, like, no, there are universal truths and there are things that everybody knows about, but you're going to start to see that once these things are interacting with these other cultures, story kind of get twisted a little bit. Once it gets twisted a little bit, you're going to find that in when we're dealing with Babylon and when we're dealing with Assyria and things like that, they start worshiping these things, right? So you're going to start to see how it's same thing like what I did, like what we looked at last week with the serpent. How you're going to start to see how this serpent is going to start popping up all around the world in all these other cultures, all right? And all of this is going to be important because, remember, we aren't there yet, but once we get to Genesis chapter 10, Genesis chapter 11, something is going to happen where we're going to call back to all of this, all right? So I'm setting the stage for weeks in advance. We're going to see why it's important because something's going to happen to where now the Most High is going to be like, okay, let me look in the earth. I've already destroyed it once. I said I'm not going to do it again. So now let me look in the earth and see, is there somebody on this earth where I can give them the truth? And then from that point forward, we're going to restart this, right? So there's a reason why he chose Israel. There's a reason why Israel is not a part of those original 70 nations and why he is going to then go and pull and create a nation for his name's sake later on, right? So a lot of times we Israel. Us alone has he chosen, but we don't even understand why he did this, right? So again, we doing some foreshadowing. We just gathering some information. And if y'all pay attention, we just been building, right? We talked about a divine council and how the Most High is the Most High above all, but there are other entities that are under him. Now we getting a glimpse at some of what these entities are, right? We talked about sons of Elohim. Now we dealing with cherubim, right? So just keep in mind, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts, and it's all this is going to come into place or going to come into play when we start looking at like Tower of Babel, right? All right, so I'm going to keep on moving, all right? So these cherubim, the Akkadians know about them. The Babylonians know about them. We're gonna keep looking. All right. Yes, sir.
Yah told Adam to name everything. So the first person that would have seen this thing would be Adam and Eve.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that, I would understand, I would take under consideration that Adam named them, and a lot of people don't realize that the law was oral before it was written. So a lot of these Sumerians and all them people, it's not hard to figure out where they got this from,
Mm-hmm.
because the main way to for information to be spread is through the word of mouth.
Mm-hmm. All praises. So this is literally what we're building on, right? Because like I said, we're going to get to a point to where we're going to see that there's a reason why now Abraham is going to come in and why this covenant is going to be important from Abraham on, right? And why then he's going to do something with the children of Israel and saying, hey, we're going to wipe everything clear, but now I need y'all to be a light to the nations, these same nations that we're going to read about once we get to Genesis 10, Genesis chapter 11. All right, so there's a role and a task that he is entrusted to us as Israel to the rest of the world, because the whole rest of the world is about to fall astray, following and worshiping all of these other things. Okay, so, but we getting ahead, we putting the cart before the horse. We're going to get there, Yah willing. All right, what I do want us to see is this is a relief. All right, so this is a relief in a place called Nimrud. All right, Nimrod. All right, so we ain't got the Nimrod yet. Like I said, this is all later on, but we're going to see that at some point, like Elder said, the story is going to start getting messed up, and then people going to start, instead of, we're going to start to see that people going to start worshiping these things and listening to these things that are falling away from the Most High. I just put it that way. All right, so this is a relief. And y'all see some winged individuals. And then where are they? What are they at? Can y'all see what they're doing? So they guarding, they right here at this tree. Okay, so now going back to Genesis, the Most High placed 2 cherubim to guard the tree of life, right? But then we're gonna start to see as they start getting in contact with these other cultures and these other, they're going to be guarding a tree, and they're going to be giving people access to a quote-unquote tree, but it's going to be a different tree. So, again, keep all of this in mind, because just keep all of this in mind. All right, so this is a scene. They say winged deities kneeling beside a sacred tree. All right. This was found in or I don't know if it's still there, but at the time that this photo was taken, it was in a British museum. All right. They found this at the palace of Nimrod or Nimrud. Okay. We're going to keep going. So same picture top and bottom, but you can't really see it on the bottom. And this is a facsimile at the top so that you can better see the lines. What are they doing? Same tree is popping up, right? But now you see you got those 2 on the outside, but now they're introducing some new guys to this tree and giving them access to this tree. Okay, now this is all Babylon. This is what they telling you. What tree y'all think that might be? And it might not be the tree of life. It might be the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Okay, all praises. You said, why would they be cherubs? Or cherubim? So I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but what you're gonna see is that there are those who actually obeyed the Most High, and then you're gonna see that there were some that fell away, which is why he had to wipe the whole slate clean. And it's like, okay, I'm going to pick Israel, and instead of me having an intermediaries that I'm trusting to bring back the esteem and point the people back to me, I'm going to personally step in and be their Elohim, right? So you're going to find that this is the reason and the significance why the Most High is like, no, Israel and Israel alone have I known. I have not dealt so with any other nation. Every other nation I set up, and I set up other, and they were supposed to report back to me, and keep the people in line and then point the people back to me. A few weeks ago, if y'all remember when we was talking about the divine order, Brian brought out a point. He said, well, even when the messengers would come, right, what would they always say? No, don't bow down in front of Yahuwah and Yah and Yah alone, right? Like they would always make it known. These are the ones that are obedient to the Most High and doing what they're supposed to do. But that don't mean that all are. We know that it was a third that followed the opposite way, right? Okay, all praises. That was easier than I thought it would be. Daniel, so Daniel, what is this? Daniel, you can go look in the book of Daniel where he's talking about, well, I was on my way, but I was slowed down. I couldn't quite get to you because I was warring with the prince over. So you're starting to see that there's nations, and these nations have quote unquote princes over them, that they that's where they tap in and they getting their might and their strength from. So I'm gonna set that down and do with that what you will. All right. So this here. Now, mind you, remember what these cherubim, they animals and all of these sorts of things, right? Here's another depiction. Okay. All of these are all coming out of Nimrud, modern day Iraq area. Okay. Ancient day Babylon. Okay. So again, same picture. It's just harder to see at the top. And this is what they call Apkalu, and it's like, I guess it's tending to this tree. Okay. Again, you see these two cherubim, quote unquote. Sister Dobby. Oh, okay. No, my bad. Oh, okay. I thought your hand was up. All praises. So we're going to keep going because these things, they've been seen all around the world, y'all. Like, if you really start to connect the dots, you don't see that. Now, Strong's is saying, hey, it's an imaginary thing. We don't know what this is, where it comes from. But somebody knows. We can go all around the world and you're going to find depictions of cherubim, okay? Sphinxes, cherubim, whatever you want to call it. Rome, Ethiopia, Greece, Assyria, Egypt, India, Iran, Cambodia. Like everywhere you're going to find these things. The ancients knew about them and they was reporting and, worshiping them and whatever else they was doing with them. But now keep in mind that this is a big difference between what these two are doing with the Garden of Eden. They're keeping evil out. You're going to start to find that when you start looking at it as it's depicted in these other nations, that they actually are allowing evil in, right? Go ahead, Doc.
So we're talking about the tree, and these cherubim is inviting these other nations to this tree. And I'm looking at Babylon with Nimrod. I don't want to open. Is this gonna have anything to do, like later down the road, dealing with the Christmas tree?
All I gotta say is I'm gonna let y'all connect the dots. But if you ask me, I think it's awfully coincidental.
You know what I'm
right?
saying? When you said, I said, wait a minute. I know good.
So we're gonna start to see where all of this stuff is coming from and why he's now saying to Israel, listen, if y'all don't do nothing else, don't do these things. Right? So the story has gotten all mixed up going out before all of the nations, right? And now you got these entities that are, hey, we'll listen to us and we'll show you how to get some might, some power, right? We'll grant you all of these things, enter into covenant with us, worship us. Same thing as what it was in Matthew chapter 4, right? I give you all of this as long as you just bow down and worship me. Right? Forget about worshiping the Most High. You worship me and I give it to you now. Right? So, but again,
I was just actually thinking about the book of Enoch, where the watchers were coming down and they were teaching all the wrong things. They were bringing that forbidden knowledge down and giving it to the people. This puts it right into that same. It puts it right into that same respect of understanding good from evil, bringing it down to where not evil, even though even though Adam and Eve had already created, had already had their transgression, but now you've got the 200 down here taking everything that they were not supposed to know and giving it to them.
And then for their own destruction, might I add, right? Like teaching them weapons of warfare and, all sorts of other things. But all praises. So now, they do pop back up in the biblical scene, right? Ark of the Covenant. Now, this is the quote-unquote Ark of the what? Covenant. And they are set as, again, doing what? Guarding this throne. They're guarding your way back into this covenant. So what they are sitting on top of is something called the Kipporeth, or the mercy seat, as they'll say, right? So, okay, so you got this mercy seat that they sitting on top of, and then underneath that, you got the contents that's in the ark. We got three things, right? We got the 10 Commandment tablets, and then what else? So we got law, okay? Then what else? Say it again. We got the golden jar of manna, right? And then what else? Aaron's staff that budded, right? All right, so these three things are in there, and these three things are supposed to symbolize something about the quote-unquote covenant. All right? So just keep that in mind, and in these same two, they still guarding this. They guarding it, right? So just like they guarding the way back to the tree of life, here they guarding, need I say, your way back to the tree of life. And then we're going to see in Revelation, they're going to pop up again, and they doing the same thing. Same thing. So, all praises. So, the biblical concept of cherubim likely incorporated these ancient Near Eastern ideas. In the Bible, cherubim are powerful winged beings who serve as guardians of the Garden of Eden, throne bearers, or the chariot of Elohim, adornments in the design of the tabernacle and Solomon's temple. All right, so we good there so far, right? All right, we probably won't touch on that no more for the rest of this lesson. Again, I'm just doing some foreshadowing. And I said, you know what? May as well bring it up now so that later on, once we start getting to Babylon, things going to start making sense. All right? So, now to where we are today. Is there anything that we can glean from this, and this being Genesis 3 and 23, 24, right? That informs us on how Elohim deals with transgressions of his word. I already brought it out earlier, right? It's just like it is today in a natural house. If you violate the rules, what happens? You get kicked out. You got to go, right? So we're starting to learn something about the Father's character, right? Now, this is really an act of his mercy, like we talked about last week, because it's either, now, there is an alternative to getting kicked out, right? But if you stay here and keep disrespecting me in my face in my house, what are we going to be, how's our relationship going to be? It's going to be tumultuous, right? We beefing. We fighting and getting all kinds of dysfunctional, because I'm not going to let you disrespect me in my house, right? All of us, we all understand that principle, right? So it's really an act of mercy where he's like, okay, instead of, because I already know what I'm going to do to you. So you know what? Go ahead, pack your bags. You ain't got to go, how the saying go? But you got to get up out of here, right? So that's what happens, right? So we learning a principle about the Father. Now, what happens to a quote-unquote reprobate? He washes his hands and he says, you know what? I'm going to let you figure it out. Do your own thing, right? This is the way that the Father moves. We're learning something about his character, all right? Has anybody ever been in that space where it's like, man, I know I'm messing up and I can't hear the Father? I done been there, right? Where it's like, man, I done messed up. And now I'm doing everything in my might and in my strength to tap in. Let me hear from you. And can't hear nothing. You know when that presence of his Ruach is missing. And you can feel it. In your nefesh, you can feel it. And it's like, man, I need that back. right? What did David say? Please do not take your set apart ruach from me, right? Psalm 51. Please don't do that. He will distance himself. And that's an act of his mercy and his compassion. Because while you still got today, maybe you will repent, turn back, and get things right. Now, that's going to be on his terms. And you can't force that, right? Just like he told Moses, nah, I still rock with you and I still love you, but you can't go up in there. Just same with Adam and Eve. Hey, I still love you, but you can't go up in there. Not like this. Right? But even within that, he always gives us a way at being restored and getting redeemed. We got kicked out of the land. But he always set up a way. You do what's right, and you turn back and you follow me, I'm going to give you access back into it. Now, that's not going to be how you saying. We can't just sweep this under the rug and act like nothing happened. But what I will do is I'm going to set up a way. As long as you're willing to obey, I'm merciful, I'm compassionate. This is my character. I'll give you access again, right? That's what he is. That's what he is. It's all he is.
It's like when he told Cain, hey, your offering can be accepted if. Mm-hmm. And with Cain, once he didn't change and he knew he was out of the protection of the Most High, man, if I'm out here, they're going to seek my life. Mm-hmm. Same thing with us. When we sin, we feel this disconnect. Not only feel this disconnect, but we feel, man, I could be in a car accident any second now. Mm-hmm. And we feel it. So what it makes us do? Repent, grieve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All praises. A fearful thing of falling into the hands of a angry Elohim, right? The wicked flee when none pursueth, right? And it's designed, like I said, that hopefully you'll bethink yourself and you know what, that was a close call. Let me get myself together, right? So like I said, here we see that Elohim has sent the man and his wife into exile. They are no longer allowed in the garden, nor are they allowed to have access to the tree of life. There are cherubim with swords guarding the way of the tree of life. All right. So the genetics of Genesis. So we're going to dig into this as we continue on too. Not necessarily today, but there's a phrase that you're going to keep seeing repeated all throughout this book. And it's the word, what they say, generations, right? And these are the generations of the heavens and the earth. These are the generations of Noah. These are the generations of, name it, right? You know, keep seeing this. That word in Hebrew is toledot, right? And you're going to start to see that within this, each one of these is going to represent a cycle in time. And this cycle of time, you're going to keep seeing, it's just going to keep repeating. Right? And we're going to touch on that just a little bit today. All right, but not much. So genetics. What can y'all tell me about genetics before we start? Steve.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
It's kind of like what we was left off last week. You know, it's for me, it's a specific code that gives separation between the species, you know, animal. We can go down the line, but I always get interested in really how deep the book of Genesis really is. You can't just go through it, okay, creation. Then we have these beings that you talk about. We were studying about cherubim, or this, you know, what is it? The seraphim, and that there are bad ones, and then how people don't understand. We were all talking about it on a study last Wednesday night. And as far as, okay, you don't understand the verbiage in the Bible and why they talk about generations, but yet you want to talk about science, that science is aliens. Well, if
you believe in other life forms, extra-dimensional or extraterrestrial, you have to understand that there's something bigger than us going on, that we're like ants. And if we say there's nothing really greater and that there's a division up there as far as rebellion, I don't want to take too much time, but it all stems from the beginning of Genesis, genetics, and the struggle between Abraham and Nimrod, monotheism against polytheism, what to do, what not to do, and so forth. So it's a pretty basic foundation.
All praises. He just said a whole lot in a little bit of time. So, like I said, as we go through all of this, there's a reason why we touching on it the way that we touching on it now, because we building blocks, right? Building blocks. So we're gonna get to a point to where something's gonna happen to where the Father is gonna look down and see it's a disaster going on the earth. Everything's got to be wiped out. And then we're going to see that after that, it's a disaster going on the earth. Divide these people, because I said I'm not going to destroy everything, but divide these people and have them go their separate ways. And then, like I said a couple moments ago, here we are at Abraham. Okay? So, genetics, all right? The study of heredity and the variation of inherited characteristics. So, an inherited characteristic. We know that we look like who we come from, right? And in a lot of cases, we act like who we come from, right? Okay, all praises. So it's something to it, right? The genetic properties or features of an organism, characteristic, etc. All right. So today we'll be looking at this story from a different angle, and hopefully it'll help us see what is in ourselves. All right. So if we all believe that we all came from these two people that came out of the garden, that means that it's some things, probably good and bad, that we have inherited, right? Okay, all praises. So as we continue, keep in mind the curses that were put in place in the garden on mankind. Also keep in mind the parable of the wheat and tares as we continue. So we'll get a chance to see how these curses manifest in two different manner of seed. Although both come from the same source, there are two manner of seed that come forth. And by source, I mean physical source, right? So could it be because of the mixture of good and evil in the fruit of the tree that Adam and Eve ate from in the garden, right? So just keep that in mind, that you don't start to see that before everything was all told me old, right? Everything was created told me old. Everything is very good. And then they do something, take this mixed up tree, now it's no longer only good, right? But it's good and it's evil. This is a bad thing, right? So now we're going to start to see, now Adam, he was created in the image and likeness of what? Of the Most High. But then we're going to start to see that it's a fall off that takes place when we get to the children, right? So the two seeds, right? Raising Cain. I hope we ain't raising no Cains in here, all right? Hopefully we not raising no Cains in here. It's good chicken, though. It's good chicken, though. You know it got to be good when that's the only thing they sell. They don't sell nothing else but chicken fingers. That's it. They don't need no variety on the menu. So they said, we're going to do this one thing and we're going to do this one thing right. Okay, all praises. So hopefully you are able. It's a play on words, but hopefully as we see, we're bearing the fruit more likened to Abel than Cain. All right. So Genesis 4:1, it says, and Adam knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from Yahuwah. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahuwah. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And Yahuwah had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So one thing to note is that we are not given the reason that Abel was called Abel. All right, so it told us why she called Cain Cain, but we don't hear anything about why she named Abel or Abel, what she named him. Okay, and then just keep in mind that Hebrew names, all of them have meaning. All right. So, interestingly, however, we are given a reason that Cain was named Cain. All right, so I'm gonna read this in Hebrew, but what I want y'all to pay attention to is the two red boxes. Okay, so one is Cain's name, and then the word on the bottom is why she named him Cain. All right. So, Vahad Adam Yada et Hua Ishto Vatahar Vatelid et Cain Vatomer Kaniti Ish et Yahuwah. All right. So, basically what it's saying is, and Adam knew Hua, his woman, his Isha, and she conceived and bore Cain and said, I have gotten a man from Yahuwah. Now, that word for gotten is kaniti, okay? That's why she's saying, hey, I've received this man from Yah. The question now becomes, was this really the case? Yes. Okay. Was this really the case? And was it true that she was given a man of Yahuwah? Or perhaps would it have been accurate to say that she had been given a man or an Ish from the man, Ha-Adam? Now, I'm gonna put it that way. There's a whole nother rabbit hole and can of worms that I am 100%. I'm not going there. And if you know, you know. And if you don't want to know. Okay, so, yeah, all praises. Say less. All praises. I'm not even, I'm avoiding that altogether. And we're going to leave that alone. That's not even, but yeah, I said, why waste time on that? I'm not going to waste time on that. But, yes. Yeah. All praises. Say less. Like I said, it's a can of worms I'm not trying to open. If you know, you know. And if you don't worry about it. Okay? All praises. So, sticking to this, is it more accurate, however, to say that she received a man from her man and not necessarily from the Most High? Because we're going to see that there's a reality that they're going to have to deal with now that they are outside of the garden. That you got to accept this as your reality, right? You're going to get some mixed seed, mixed bag, right? Some of it is going to be good and some of it is going to be bad. Now, from hard work, you labor, you put in the work, you can get some good results. But let the wild seed grow wild if you want to. We'll see what it does, right? So, H7014, Cain, this is his name. The same as 7013 with the play upon the affinity to H7069. Cain, the name of the first child also of a place in Palestine. Okay, we get it. So it's the name of Cain. Cain, from 6969 in the original sense of fixity, a lance. Right, so a lance is like a weapon, right? As striking fast, a spear. Okay, moving on. 6969, following the word tree. Kun, to strike a musical note, that is, chant or wail at a funeral, to lament, mourning woman. And then Kana 7069, to erect, that is to create, by extension to procure, especially by purchase, causatively to sell, by implication to own, attain, to be a buyer, right? To now, this is the same. That last word is the root word for the land of Canaan, right? Has anybody ever heard that the land of Canaan, as in the land that we conquered, being a land of merchants? Okay, so just throwing all of that in there. Like I said, we gathering information. Do with it what you will. So all of this is important because of what Elohim told both the man and both the woman and the man. So we're going to get a glimpse of how they have to cope with their new reality outside of the garden. Now, you know what? I am going to go back. I can't help it. Okay, so the ways of this world, we live in something, or in where we at now, we live in something called capitalism, right? And capitalism, it functions off of what? Merchants, right? Buying and selling, right? Okay, so we don't see now the man and the woman, their original environment was what? A garden, right? And this is, he put fish in the water, he put birds in the air, he put man in the garden, right? And now something about this garden, like I said, is supposed to connect you to the ways of the Most High, right? This is the reason why so many of the parables are agricultural, right? It's lessons to be learned in this. He formed the man from the dust of the earth, right? But we're going to see that something's going to happen with Cain, to where Cain, he can't use the earth anymore. So what is he going to come up with? How else is he going to survive? He has to come up with a new system of economics to be able to live. So I'm going to set that down. We're going to keep moving, all right? So all of this is important, like I said, because of what Elohim told the man and the woman. Genesis 3:15. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. It shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your man, and he shall rule over you. Jumping down to Genesis 4:1, right? So it was going to be some pain in this conception, right? And here we are in Genesis 4:1, and Adam knew Kuai, his wife, and she did what? She conceived. All right, so that means that something about this sorrow with this conception, it's time for that to kick in, right? All praises. And she bore Cain and said, I have gotten a man from Yahuwah. All right, like I said, we asking the question, well, was this really the case? Or maybe now it's time for you to have your sorrows multiplied with this conception, right? There's no running from this thing. You're trying to run from it, but things that you are not in Kansas anymore, right? Things are not what they used to be. So now we can take a moment to look at the man's function and how this will now manifest after the curses he received. All right, so 2 seeds, and now I'm going to look at the function. All right, so Genesis 2:15. Before we start, I want y'all to tell me, what was Adam's responsibilities in the garden? Okay, so till the garden, keep the land up, right? Make sure that the land is producing, and then he also had to take care of the animals, right? All right, so all of that was under the umbrella of what was his responsibility, okay? So Genesis 2:15, and Yahuwah Elohim took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it and to guard it. And out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto the man to see what he would call them. And whatsoever the man called every living creature, that was the name thereof. All right, so he has a responsibility over the animals. Then Genesis 3:22, and Yahuwah Elohim said, behold, the man is become as one of us to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, Yahuwah Elohim sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to do what? To till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way of the tree of life. All right, so now notice Adam had to care for the garden. After they sinned, they were exiled from the garden. Notice how Adam is to do the same manner of work, but it's just way more difficult. Run up on a wild animal now. I guarantee, run up on a lion and we don't see what happened, right? Now, that's not to say that they can't be tamed, but it's going to be what? Hard work. So you don't start to see how, yeah, I mean, you get back to this original order of how things were, but it ain't easy, right? So now it's being done on the ground or the Adamah that is outside of the garden. All right, so notice how he had a responsibility to both shepherd the living beings of the garden as well as tend the crops. So keep in mind that this curse is technically that the ground and all that it produced was cursed for his sake, right? So when you go back and you look at it, technically the curse that was given for the man was that what? Now the earth is cursed. Not necessarily him per se, but now the earth is cursed for your sake. Everything that came from it, right? We don't hear nothing about violence between animals and stuff like that in the garden. I don't know. I wasn't there, but we didn't read anything about it. But we sure know that on the outside, it don't look good, right? Now, we know that there's going to come a point where the lion will be able to lay next to the lamb and a child will be able to play over the whole of a cockatrice, right? But it ain't like that now, right? Try it if you want to. Now, I have seen snake charmers, but like I said, it's hard work. It's hard work. And they still, it ain't funny, but it's like at some point common sense should kick in. You know how they go out in Vegas and they have like the lion tamers and they do all those shows on the stage and all that. But you ain't got that thing under control. At any moment, if it just decides, I'm tired of pooling, I don't want to sing and dance today. I mean, like the list goes on of things that we think we got control over. It was just being what it do. Go ahead, Doc.
So, like going back into Genesis and looking at this and having those questions about why wasn't it something horrifying for a serpent to be talking to you to take a bite of this forbidden fruit or whatever. And then you look on down the line, was it Balaam's donkey spoke when he saw a Malak in the road ready to cut off Balaam. And so we knew that the animals didn't attack us. And now that we're outside the garden, it throws on another question. Okay, was it that this took 6-7 days to create, that rested on the Sabbath Shabbat, and one day is for us, one day in heaven is like 1,000 years for us, right? And then we're looking at all this and how the clean state, the perfect state, when we didn't have to, all we had to do was just guard it. And now that we're kicked out in an unclean state, sinful state, we have to work to plant the seed. And so that throws, like when I'm talking to so-called brothers that are scientists about this topic, and we see that the pre-engineered age already there, all you got to do is turn it on, just like how you would build a computer system that would house a whole universe within itself. And all you got to do is plug it in. So the word was spoke. He created everything. And with the pre-engineered age, why wasn't Adam a baby? Why didn't it have belly buttons and biblical, all that? So that we throwing these questions at us, and we have to really know what we're talking about in Genesis. Because this is where the foundation of the entire story starts. Just want to mention that.
All praises. All praises. So, okay, so all praises. So we got two roles primarily that Adam is responsible for, right? Notice how this responsibility and function of Adam is going to manifest in his two sons, right? So, in other words, the two responsibilities of Adam are now split between his two sons. So this should make it easier for the generations to come and allow the house to continue without the burden burden being on one alone after Adam is no longer with them. So these are the first examples of family economics and how the family household can function together to alleviate the burden of the curses outside of the garden when it functions properly. But we will see that in order for this to work properly, each individual will have to operate out of a certain level of self-mastery and autonomy. All right, so to put it in layman's terms, it's power in numbers. right? It's strength in numbers. So it doesn't make sense for one person to do everything on their own, right? It makes sense for Adam to say, okay, well, you be with the animals, you worry about the field, right? I had to do both. And back in my day, boy, I had to do it all. But now all you got to do is worry about this thing here, you worry about this thing here. But the issue with that is it requires a word, right? Unity, oneness, in order for this to now work for the benefit of everybody, right? Genesis, I'm not going to reread that. We've read it enough today. All right, so we're going to move on. All right, Genesis 4:2. Like father, like son. All right, and she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. All right, so now I'm not going to keep reading the Hebrew in it. It's in here, but I'm going to pay attention to the red, all right? So it's in Evet Adamah, all right? So he's a servant, if you will, of the ground, all right? So H7462, this is the word for being a shepherd, right? A roe or ra'ah, to tend a flock, that is to pasture it, to graze, literally or figuratively, generally to rule by extension, to associate with as a friend. All right, so it's something we're learning about the nature and the characteristics of a shepherd, right? A shepherd is not leading by. Have y'all ever seen like a shepherd with sheep? Like it's not a forceful, like they not out there with whips and right. They don't have to do all of that, right? They protect them, right? They call out to them and they all run up. They feed them. They love on them. Right? Like it's not an aggressive, domineering sort of dominion that they have over the sheep, right? All right, so to keep company with, to devour, to make friendship with, those are the things I wanted to point out with the function of a shepherd. All right, now Abel ends up being a shepherd, right? It's telling us something about his character, right? He's friendly with these animals. Sometimes I'm going to put it this way. There's a big difference between when something is in you and when something is on you, as they say. Right? I'm going to come to you in a second, Elder. It's a big difference between when something is in you and when something's on you, right? You can do something out of a job, but it not really be in you, and you can always tell the difference between the two, right? How many of us had teachers that it was just a paycheck? How many of us had those teachers where it was like, no, this person was called to be a teacher. You can tell they go over and beyond with the children. They go over and beyond. This is the difference between when it's something you called to do and when you're operating and functioning out of something that you called to do and when it's just, a work for hire type thing, right? So both of these two, they're functioning within the parameters of what they are, right? He's an excellent shepherd because this is in him. This is his nature, right? Cain, he's good at working the field. And it's something about that's in his nature, right? Go ahead, Elder.
When I read this, I was a little, I questioned some of it because usually the firstborn, he's entitled to be the shepherd.
Mm.
And with Cain being born first, I always wonder why Adam didn't take Cain and he took Abel. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that infuriated Cain somewhat because now, being a shepherd it's a hard job, but it's nothing like tilling the land, mm-hmm. right? And if you looked how Cain treated the land, and what he tried to give to the Messiah kind of gives you an understanding that he really didn't want to do this. This wasn't what he thought he should be doing. And I think he became envious of Abel because I think he thought he should have that job and Abel should have been in the field. I think this is where the envy started coming in between Cain and Abel. But I often wonder, why did Adam choose Abel, and Abel was the second-born, and not choose Cain? It's still a mystery to me right now, but, I figured one day, y'all tell me and explain it all to us, but I think that's where the envy started.
All praises. That's an excellent and intriguing point to be made.
Are you going to go deep into Cain and Abel, or?
Somewhat, yeah.
Just from what
somewhat.
Elder was speaking on when I was reading this week, and how one of the curses that was given to Adam was you're going to have to till the ground. What was Cain's job?
Tilling
to
the ground.
till. And then I started to think of how, even like with David, when he sinned with Bathsheba, the punishment was the firstborn had to go through something. In their case, the firstborn died. So I was just looking at how, even with Abraham, Ishmael wasn't his, Most High didn't consider him his son. But they was disobedient. Hey, take my handmaid and give us a child. So I was just thinking that even with Adam and Eve, they sinned. This is the curse. The firstborn got the curse. So that was just a thought that I had this week.
All praises. And then we're going to see his character. Like, all parents know their children, right? And you look at your children, and it's like, I can say even mine are still young, and I can see, like, the way that they are now is the way that they came out. They just doing more. But it's the way that they came out. Like, my son he's pretty much the same way that he was. Like, I could tell that how he is now is how he was going to be from when he was a baby, when he first came out. Same vice, like with his sister. So, like, it's certain things that you, as a parent, you home in on and you identify, you notice. Like, again, we're going to start to get a glimpse of the character of these two. If I'm looking at their character, why would I put the flock in Cain's hands? Why would I put this flock in your hands? I can't trust you with this flock. Who knows what you're going to do or what you won't do. You ain't cut like that to really just, same thing you're going to see later on. Like, Jacob is a man that dwells in tents. And then you're going to start to see, but Esau is, he a wild man. So you're going to see, like, I don't want to get that's lessons from now, but you're going to see how their character is going to start to play out into what they are. He was a mighty hunter. And all of these things, like, it's something about, which is why kind of they fall into the professions that they do. Yeah. So, yeah, you're going to see it's something pulling them and drawing them in that direction, and it's who they are. But go ahead.
So it's almost like naturally, like how Cain was, man, like you could almost see Adam, man. I'm been tilling this field all day. You know how these kids see you, they try to replicate what they see their parents doing, and just want to see him. Well, I need help with this field, man. You're gonna get that shovel and do this, and then you see your little brother come up, and he just walking around with the sheep with a stick, like,
playing, laughing,
why
joking.
He don't got to come out here and sweating, and then he bearing all this fruit. Oh, I'm gonna keep the best fruits for me, the best vegetables for me, and then take it for granted, the offering.
Now because you brought up the point about David, right? Now, from at first glance, being a shepherd looks like easy work, but it's really not. Let a wolf run up, let a wild animal, and it's not so easy then, right? Bet you want to be out in the field with a shovel then, right? So, like, it's pros and cons to both sides. But just, again, keep all of that in mind, because do y'all think that if Cain couldn't even take care of his own brother, his flesh and blood, What y'all think he was going to do about a lesser animal? Hey, listen, whatever come and take this animal is going to take this animal. Well, there's nothing else I could do. Right? They are outside the garden now. So, hey, they out in the field, and what happens in the field stays in the field. Right? So, go ahead.
Nah, that's real good. And it's crazy he asked that because this is the same question I asked. Remember, I called you and we was having the same discussion. The very same question. I thought the same thing. Even when you look at Noah, he's not necessarily called a shepherd, but we know preachers are shepherds to the flock. And 2 Peter 2:5 says, "And spare not the old world, but save Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness." So he'd be looked at as a shepherd of the people or whatnot. I just thought that was very interesting because, not only in Noah, but you see it in David and Moses and so many different people whatnot, but I think it all boils down to, like you said, the character of that person and the reason why they become shepherds.
And one more thing that I was just sitting there thinking about, when you look at Abel, when you look at Moshe, when you look at Jacob, when you look at David, they were all the younger one. They were all the youngest at that particular time of their life. There was nobody younger than them. So even with that, it's the whole thing just, where I'm going with this.
All praises. Like I said, what we doing is we're starting to see that there's going to be some patterns and some cycles that's going to start repeating itself throughout these generations, right? Something about the first being last and the last being first. Okay. All praises. So, like I said, could it be that these jobs of the two are telling of their character as well? Are we getting clues to the nature of their nephesh in these seemingly irrelevant details? So when we look at Abel as a shepherd, there's a certain character that he must have in order to function in this role properly, right? And you'll see the same thing with Cain as a keeper of the ground, right? All right, so Genesis 4:3, and in the process of time, it came to pass. All right, so let's just keep that in mind, that these two are two seeds. And just like with every seed, you got to plant them and then let a process of time go by. See what they grow into, right? Then that's how you'll know the difference between these two manners of seeds. Wheat and the tare. Remember I said at the beginning of the lesson, keep this parable of these wheat and these tares in your mind as we go through this. Because remember, he said, I'm going to put enmity between her seed and your seed. Okay? All praises. Without hitting that can of worms. All praises. So, so in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahuwah. So notice that an offering is brought after the passing of time. Is it possible that this is the time where the wheat is separated from the tare? So remember, the two seeds were allowed to grow together until after the passing of time, where they would then be separated. All right, so Genesis 4:4. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock. That's a type of seed as well, and of the fat thereof. And Yahuwah had respect unto Abel and unto his offering, but to Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Yahuwah said unto Cain, why are you wroth? Why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door. And unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. All right, so we see here that Abel brought the firstlings of his flock. However, Cain just brought the fruit of the ground. It appears as though Cain did not, and in fact, the book of Jasher and the Targum states that Cain brought the inferior fruits of the ground. right? So like when you start to look in the book of Jasher, when you start to like he basically brought rotten stuff that had already fell. It's just like already on his way out the door, and that's what he brought. So we're gonna go to Elder, and then we'll go to Steve.
And I find this is a good indication that Yah had explained to Adam some of his laws.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people think, you know, the laws until they was written down. How would Adam know that you need to do a sacrifice?
Mm-hmm.
How to do the sacrifice? What you should bring to sacrifice? So the law was being taught to Adam in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are things that I want you to do, you know, for me, in order, you know, for forgiveness of your sins and things of that nature. So it started with Adam,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and this is where the oral law started from.
All praises.
And then, like how you were saying, we see the sequence from as far as the first sacrifices.
Mm-hmm.
And why in Leviticus it's like, okay, Israel, you have to literally tell you don't bring offerings with tumors,
Uh-huh.
unclean
Uh-huh.
offerings.
Broke up leg, poked out
Just wanted
eye.
to mention that.
Yeah. All praises. Right? It's got to be of a certain age. Right? It's got to be the best you got. Right?
So, would it be safe to say those skins that the Father made for them would have been the very first sacrifice?
All praises.
So,
Skins came from somewhere.
would it be safe to say that from the very beginning, the high priest did this sacrifice, which would have been Yeshua?
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. I'll just put it that way. I'm not mad at it.
I just
All praises.
yeah.
All praises. Somebody had to do it. Yeah. All praises. All praises. All right. So, okay. So Genesis 4:4, like I said, Abel, he also brought the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof. So he brought the best part, right? So that's the reason why this is accepted, but then Cain's is not, right? It's not so much so that, because I've heard it said like, the sacrifice of an animal was better than the sacrifice of the fruits of the ground. That's not necessarily the case, because even when you look in Torah, you'll find you bring the increase of the ground and it will be accepted. It's a different type of offering, but it will be accepted. But in both cases, it's got to be the best you got. You can't bring nothing that's subpar to the Most High and expect for him to accept it. It doesn't work that way, right? So what I want us to see is that when we are looking at the scriptures, we are to see ourselves and our ancestors. If we do not, we will fall into the same pattern that is being spoken of in James. So might I add, whenever we're dealing with sacrifices, whenever we're dealing with offerings made unto the Most High, right? It's never so much about the offering itself, but about the offerer, right? He's looking at the heart of the offerer, right? Like, he wants you out of your heart to bring the best that you have to him. Draw near to him with that. That's what makes it a sweet-smelling aroma, right? A pleasing odor unto the Most High. But what defiles it is when you don't bring the best, you give them the scraps and the leftovers, and it's like, what am I going to do with this? Right? You took the best part for yourself, and then you want me to turn around, be me, and bless you with. Go ahead, Doc.
I just want to add one more thing to what you were just saying. When you bring in the best when you bring in the word, we're supposed to give of our first fruits at all. You know, we're supposed to get, And the first fruits that we present to the Most High the tithing, has to be the best, because that food is going out to whom? Mm-hmm. That food that's going out to the Levites, it's going out to the strangers, going out to the for the widow and the fatherless sons and the fatherless children. It's used to take care of his flock, his kingdom. Mm-hmm. And if it was you, would you want to eat something inferior? Mm-hmm. Would you want to take just a leftover? Mm-hmm. Especially when or would you if you're hungry enough, you eat whatever. But however, the whole thing is, how much do you love me to provide for my children? Mm-hmm. How much do you love me to give them the best that you have?
Mm-hmm. All praises. All praises. So this is what Cain did not do, as we will soon see. Instead of him looking in himself or why what was presented from the ground was not worthy, he looks everywhere else, hence being blind to what manner of man he was, just like it said, right? And just like James said, you like a man looking in the mirror and forget what manner of man you are, right? You mad with the Most High because he don't want this, but you didn't stop to look at yourself at why he didn't accept this. After he told you, right? So not only do we see the offerings that were made by the two brothers, we are really getting a glimpse at the hearts of the two. Abel has a heart as a friend, as a shepherd over the flock, while Cain is a servant of the ground or his own flesh. The man was made from what? He was made from the ground. So he's a servant of the ground. What do you think he's serving? Serving himself, right? So which spirit are we operating in? And what are we bringing before the altar of Yahuwah? So is it the inferior fruits of the ground, or is it a first fruit after the seed of his word, right? So are we bringing the best that we have, or are we showing love and kindness to the flock before the altar to be Yahuwah's friend? A good shepherd lays down his life for the flock, but a servant of the ground is only focused on himself. So which one are we? And if we are selfish, we'll always hold back the first fruit from Yahuwah. All right, so just keep that in mind. Like I said, as we go through these things are written as examples for our learning, and there's so much that we can gain from it, because remember, the same two seeds that we see in operating in them is the same stuff that's in us. That's literally what genetics are. So what we bring to the altar is not necessarily the gift, but we are bringing ourselves to the altar as a gift. If we have something in our heart, it can defile the altar or defile the offering, right? Matthew 5:21. You have heard that it was said by them of old time, you shall not kill. Whoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause, what was Cain? Angry with his brother without a cause, shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, you fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar, and there remember that thy brother have aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Agree with thine adversary quickly while you are in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and you be cast into prison. Verily I say unto you that shall by no means come out thence till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. And trust me, that's an amount, that's a money amount of money, that's a balance you cannot pay. You can spend the rest of your life and the next, and you'll never pay that balance off. So Genesis 4:3, right? And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering made unto Yahuwah. Again, we already done talked about the ground. It can be representative of himself, right? H6529, peri. This is the word for fruit, okay? From 6509, fruit literally or figuratively, a bow, first, fruit, right? We get it. It's fruit. He brought the produce of the ground. And here's my question to y'all. What is our spiritual fruit? And so you can have good fruit or bad fruit, right? You can have fruit of the Ruach, or you can have some fruit of your own flesh, right? Okay. But either way, it's what we say, what we think, and what we do, right? We all agree that our fruit is what we say, what we think, and what we do. This is literally how it plays out in the Hebrew, right? The word is peri. The first letter is the letter pei. It's a picture of what? Your mouth. Next letter is a picture, or is the letter resh. Picture of the head, your mind. Last is a picture of the yod. It's your hand, right? Represent your actions. So it's literally the word fruit in Hebrew. It's all the connections has always been there. These are your actions, your thoughts, the things that you say. All right? And your actions, right? So all praises. All right, so verse 5. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Yahuwah said unto Cain, why are you wroth? Why are you angry? And why is your countenance falling? Fix your face. Why are you looking like that? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door. And unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. And Cain talked with Habel, or Abel, his brother. And it came to pass, we're going to start to see that the seed that was in Cain's heart is going to start to sprout, and it's going to start to bear some fruit. When they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. All right, so do we see his fruit? And how it started in his mind, then it went to his speech, and then his hand. Right? Oh, you see all of this, all playing out. But first off, the Most High is looking and saying, I can see what's in your heart. You got to get that hatred up out of your heart. I already see what seed is in there. I'm trying to question you, but if you do what's right, won't you be accepted? But it's something in you. Its desire is to have you. You better rule over it, because if you don't, it's going to rule over you. Right? This is why we must guard what is in our ground, right? What seed is in you. Again, previous weeks we went over it. The seed of his word, right? It's 4 types of ground. You're going to let the seed of his word be in you, and hopefully it's going to bring forth fruit in abundance, fruit of his Ruach. Right? Galatians tells us what the fruit of his Ruach is. Or you can let the ground just bring forth the wild seed, the tare. Right? Yes. The works of the flesh are manifest. Right? Everybody know those. Because don't nobody want the works of the flesh to happen in them. Right? So when sin is full grown, it always brings forth what? Death every single time, right? James 1:13, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of Yah. For Yahuwah cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempts he any man. Cain right here is proof of it. He didn't tempt him to go do that to Abel. He trying to talk him off the ledge of the cliff. Hey, it's something, get this together, man. I'm seeing what's going on. To repent and turn away.
So, and this is where you see when Mashiach said to the Pharisees, you are your father, the devil, murderer from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first murder.
Mm-hmm. All praises. And they all had a real mother and a real father, right? They was of a physical mother and father. Okay. Again, like I said earlier with that can of worms, that I wasn't going to open up, but if you know, you know. Yeah, okay, all praises. All right, so James 1:13, or 1 and 14 rather. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust or his own desire and enticed. Then when lust has conceived, it brings forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, brings forth death. So now what are we seeing? Remember, I read this last week with his mother and his father. And now we're seeing that the same thing is now happening with Cain, right? So you're starting to see how the fruit don't fall too far from the tree, as they say, right? You're starting to see now this is a way that this is working. And depending on what seed is in you, that's what you're going to bring forth, what fruit you're going to bear. So notice how the thing that was in him is described as having a predatory nature. All right, so there was something in him that wants to bring him under the curses that were declared to his parents in the garden. So now you will notice how the sin in him, the seed that the serpent planted, right, this word, if you will, that the serpent planted, operates just as the serpent did in the garden, right? What does the serpent do? He crouch, right, lurking, waiting for an opportune time, seeking whom he may devour. Now, what is he telling him about this nature that is in him, right? Sin is in you, and its desire is to have you. You might look cool on the outside, but this thing is in you. You better rule over it. You better have dominion over it, and don't let it have dominion over you.
No, I was talking to myself this week, just thinking, and I was just thinking how when I would go through certain situations and how a thought could have came 2 weeks ago, and then the next week that same thought comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't have rule over that thought, now it's about to devour me,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's going to cause me to act in a way that the Most High would disapprove.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to beat that just by doing a simple response, a simple text message.
Mm-hmm.
And it killed that whole 2 weeks of when this take place, or when I see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part of the Father gives us those having a ruach gives us that opportunity to, hey, that thought is not correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say that in the mic. Can a son be guilty of his father's sins? Only if he repeats them, right? So, go ahead, W.
Oh, you can finish what you
Okay, so we're going to, you have to go back and you got to look at what it's really saying in Shemot, right? When he says that I visit the iniquity upon the fathers, right, to the third and fourth generation, but show steadfast love unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commands. But when you look at that word in Exodus, he's not saying, hey, the father did something and now it's going to fall on the sons. That's not what that's saying, right? Like, I'm going to repay it to the son. That's not what that's saying. If you look at that word for visiting the iniquity, the word there is pakad, and it's literally saying that he's observing, right? He's looking, he's inquiring, right? He's looking and checking back to say, okay, so that was in the earlier generation. And remember, we talk about these generations, right? Fruit don't fall too far from the tree. Genesis 1 and 14, that's a principle, or not 14, 21, I think it is, where he says that and the seed was in itself, right? So every tree is going to bear what it is. So he's looking and seeing, okay, let me look. So that's the child. I know how wicked the father was. Let me see if that's going to come back out in this child. And if it does come back out in the child, then what? I'm definitely going to deal with it, right? I let the pops, he kept doing in this evil. But if I see this come out in the third and fourth gen, like, no, I'm going to deal with that, right? So he's looking and he's watching. And we see an example of that with King Josiah, right? It was a judgment that was supposed to happen because of his grandfather and because of his father, right? Manasseh was off the chain. But then or not because of his father, but you'll see that he is one of his grandfathers, right? Then as the generations go, then now you're going to get to the time of Hezekiah or of Josiah, and he's like renting his clothes, like, hold on, wait a minute. They found the book of the law, and he like, oh no, this is why this is happening. And he repented. He cleaned up the land and did all of that. So then when he talked to the prophetess, what did she say? She said, oh nah, Most High is gonna pass over you and your generation. You don't have to worry about seeing the destruction in your generation because you repented and you sought me. But that didn't mean that he wasn't gonna keep looking in them generations to see when it was gonna come up. And as soon as it came up, that's when he dealt with it. Right? So, yeah, all praises. Excellent question. Nadabia.
No, I was just going to say something along the lines of what Brian was saying, just about we really do have the ability to be able to, our thoughts come, right? But we really do have the ability to be able to, like, no, let me just stop. I'm not going to let it get that to a point to where I regret or sin, and then I think being honest and acknowledgement is important. The tree of good and evil that's the tree that he ate from. So we are that tree of life. We don't have that. So we have both good and evil inside of us. Just you have to be able to acknowledge that. Now you can say, I'm going to choose the good and not do the evil. But if you don't be honest with yourself and say, man, this is really a battle. I do war. Like these thoughts come in my mind and things like that. We have the word to combat, and Abihu has given us all that we need to not, choose the evil. But you have to admit, good and evil, that was a tree that was eaten from. So now, okay, now that that's the truth, I gotta be aware of that so I can be able to know how to deal with it. Just be honest. Like, yeah, it's hard sometimes, but choose good, stray away from evil, and Abihu has given us all that we need. But yeah, just having the ability to be honest, acknowledge, and Abihu will do it the same with us like he did with Cain. Well, sin is at the door. But don't give in to it. Turn away from it. You have the ability to do that. You have to choose that. But yeah, we have good and evil. Choose the good.
All praises. All praises, right? Like it's up to you. Like you said, you either gonna open that door or you gonna keep it shut, right? Like is that song back in the day? Like, who's that creeping in my window? Wow, nobody now. Like, that's how we got to be. Like, you know what I mean? Ryan. You got Ryan in the back.
So, sis just brought up them eating from the tree of good and evil. That was clearly before they had kids. And so when they have these kids, because they ate of that tree, now the kids have good and evil. And I'm bringing this up because some people will say, oh, well, the serpent had...
I told you, that's a can of worms.
Relations with Eve. But
yeah, that's why I said I don't even want to entertain it.
But no. I'm just...
But yeah, no, but that's that can of worms.
That's that can of worms.
That's that can of worms.
It was already open, but, this is something... I'm just discarding it and showing, what it's really about because, the parents that ate of this tree and these kids taking on this good and evil, and that's what that's about. So, I'm just trying to stop the confusion for anybody who's wondering, like, well, did this happen? Did that happen? No, I think she kind of laid it out, and I just wanted to put that out there and whatnot, so it ain't no confusion. Because we got people listening online and whatnot, and they believe in that serpent seed doctrine. No. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So I just wanted to throw that out there.
All praises. If that's the case, then let me stop. All I'm gonna say is, if that's the case, then it's a lot of us. Daddy ain't who we think our daddy is. Then I'm gonna just put it that way. Like mama, all right, okay. All praises. Yeah.
So, along with the tree of life, right, we see that in other religious circles, even with the Christmas tree, right, and how it originated. It's subtle. It's put in there subtly, like kind of under the rug. The tree of good and evil. The tree. If you get something, you're gonna get something good from under this tree. If you're naughty or nice, you feel what I'm saying? So like they sneak it in there. And even when you go to more, as far as you go more into the Kabbalah, they have this tree of enlightenment, tree of life, and so forth. So this is all around us. This is what we have to counter against as far as that serpent seed, whether it's spiritual, metaphysical, and biological, with intermixing DNA in itself.
All praises. All praises. So 1 Peter 5:8, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about seeking whom he may devour. Right? The same way that this quote unquote sin nature works within you. Right? And where y'all think that came from? The father of lies. He's been sinning since the beginning.
I just wanted to read Devarim 30:15 like real quick.
All praises.
Devarim, or Deuteronomy chapter 30 verse 15. See, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil. And that I am commanding you today to love Yahuwah your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to guard his commands and his laws and his right rulings, and you shall live and increase, and Yahuwah your Elohim shall bless you in the land which you go to possess. But if your heart turns away you do not obey, and shall be drawn away, and shall bow down to other mighty ones and serve them, I have declared to you today that you will certainly perish, and you shall not prolong your days in the land which you are passing over the Jordan to enter and possess. So I just wanted to say that because of it's put before us good and evil, but you have to choose the good. Just wanted to clarify that.
All praises. Absolutely. All praises. Not making a choice is making a choice. All praises. All right, we getting there. Another can of worms, and I'm gonna tread lightly, but I do want y'all to see this. Okay? I do want y'all to see this. I'm gonna tell you now, the men ain't gonna have no problem with this. Okay, all praises. All right, so I'm going to read this. Genesis 4:5. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And Yahuwah said unto Cain, why are you wroth, and why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door, and unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. All right? So, unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. All right, Genesis 3:16. I'm a call back, all right, because we haven't gone over parallelisms, chiasms, or anything like that. We're going to get there, but the word is written in a certain way, and in certain parallels and patterns is all baked into the text, all right? So without explaining all of that, I'm going to draw out a parallel, okay? Genesis 3:16. And unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your man, and he shall rule over you. Does anybody notice any similarity between those two? With the wording. I'm going to stay just with the wording. So Genesis 4:7, if you do well, shall you not be accepted? And if you do not well, sin lies at the door. All right, so in this case, you got the man and you have sin, okay? And unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. Genesis 3:16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow shall you bring forth children. And your desire shall be unto your Isha, to your man, and he shall rule over you. So, exact same wording, exact same words, but there's a flip that's taking place. Okay, Akil TD.
This is a question. So because of the sin, is it saying that's what came out of it? So because of the sin, the desire was the man shall rule over you because you did not do well?
All praises. Again, I'm treading lightly because I know it's one of those things, especially for online. It's another one of those things that can go left. But like what I'm not saying, like, because I could, y'all know I got a sense of humor. Let me stop. I can't help it. Like, what did Solomon say? Like, he searched all the world to find a righteous man, a good man. Like, but all around the world, like, he could not find. Like, so no, I'm not going in that direction. All right, not going in that direction. All right, all praises. Like, it's a great opportunity though for a doctrine to be created, but no. Yeah. So look, that's not the can of worms I'm trying to open up, but I am trying to show that there is a connection between the relationship between the man and how in sin, and you're going to find that there's a relationship or a connection, a similarity between their dynamic, the two of them. But you're going to notice that in the case with the woman, his responsibility is to do what? To govern or rule over her, to mashal over her. But then if you notice that sin has a desire to do what? To rule over him. So you'll see. So like I said, notice the intentional wordplay pointing us back to what was told to Eve or Kuah. Notice he is to govern over sin as a man does the woman, right? So it's something that he's now being taught, right? Like, listen, we talked about it last week. Like, the first thing, if you don't be a governor over the Isha, over the woman, like, you got to first submit yourself unto the will of the Most High, right? We talked about how the word for governing or ruling, right? Mashal is the same word for Proverbs. And then we saw what the Proverbs were for, right? It's literally how the book opens up, that they're for wise instruction, judgment, right? Operating in righteousness. That's what these commands are for. So he's showing the man that, hey, yo, don't ease up, because it's something that's desiring to have you, right? So it will have a desire for him, but he is to govern over it and not allow its pulling and tugging at him to affect his authority to govern over it. If he will lend his ear to it, he will fulfill its desire, thereby giving up his rule over it. All right. Now, no knock on the women whatsoever at all. But this kind of sort of, at times, it can be the dynamic between the two, right? Where the woman is like, no, I see it the way that I see it. I know. Boom, boom, boom. This is the way. And why won't you just do what and now you see that there's a whole thing in the house where now it's chaos functioning in the house, right? Now here go that enemy, right? But the man is supposed to, now again, we already done said, and if you don't know, go back to the last week because we talked about that, right? This is not no ruling with an iron fist and like, woman, you gonna do what I say, but I'm wrong. Like, that's not how that works, right? But if he is putting himself into submission or subjection under the Father through Mashiach, then now everything else should work out fine, right? Going to the woman, then you're going to see that from the woman going to the children. Now the whole house is akkad, is one, right? So, yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, Yah would put Adam over his wife in a sense that he makes a lot of the decisions since he's been following Yah. Now, the woman who's supposed to have been, that came from Adam's side, they should be on equal grounds when it comes to making decisions for the family. But it's one of them can be easily, what's the word I want to use? Misdirected. Someone has to be the authority. And since, I don't know, offense woman, since it wasn't Adam who was deceived, he was given that responsibility over the woman. Now, in most cases, that scenario would play out like that. Now, there are a few that if the woman is more in tune with Yah than the man is, she needs to step up and let her man knows, hey, this ain't the way the Father wants us to go. So in the grand scheme of things, the only reason he put man over woman is particularly because sometimes she can be, I ain't saying that.
Right. But no, when you really look at the design of how both the man and the woman are created, like just your observation of looking at how they're created, like women are natural. I ain't gonna say all, but the nature of a woman is to nurture, to care, so they a lot of times are a lot more sensitive to emotions, to like for the yellow dean, right? Like I just know how the two of us deal with our children. Like she cares about how they feel. I really don't. And it's just facts. Like I care about their well-being. I want to make sure, okay, you fed, you safe, you like everybody is guarded, protected, like everybody, and as long as that's cool, how you feel, I could care less about. But she cares about how they feel. Like, listen, well, you don't want them to feel like I don't care how they feel. Why would I care how they feel? Like, but it's a balancing thing, right? Like, I can't always not in discord. I'm gonna do more damage than I will do good if I don't consider their feelings sometimes. But I can't allow that to skew my judgment on right, wrong, and things like that. So yeah. Go ahead.
And I agree with that as well, because I know, like, with me personally, like, I can say something a million times and they won't listen to me. And all Steve does have to do is look at them. And then when he's getting on them, I'm like, wait, they didn't do nothing that bad. And so I have to sit back and just be like, let me hush and let him handle it, because I had to say it 1,000 times. But sometimes it's like, but, and I have to do that myself.
And how many times have we heard, like, the only reason why they doing that is because you letting them get away with X, Y, Z. Like, that's what. But it isn't. But I will say it is a necessary thing, though. Like, they do need that sensitivity, and they do need to have that poured into them as well. Just you got to have a balance between it, right? You got to have a balance. So. All praises. Yeah. All praises. So,
just real quick, somewhere in one of the books, it mentions that the children are oppressors. So it's deeper than just emotions.
all praises. Yeah, I'm gonna just say, I mean, I'm gonna put it like this. I'm gonna use me myself as an example. If it wasn't for my dad being in this, like, if it wasn't for my father, I probably would have been oppressive to my mama. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just naturally, it's not like I was in fear of her or, you know what I mean? Like, so that one, and then her, like, my mother is one of the sweetest women you'll ever meet. So, like, she would have let me run all over, forward, backward, side to side. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah, children they definitely will.
It's like sister was saying about Isaiah 3, where there's disorder, where the women are ruling above, the men don't want to rule, they don't want to, or they don't know how to. And then you have the youth that are oppressing the people because they didn't have that guidance.
All praises. All praises. So, in both cases, like I said, the same words are used. Desire, same word. Rule, same words. Is a parallel here that the word is written in such a way it's supposed to make you call back. Okay. So H8669, Teshuka, in the original sense of stretching out after, a longing, a desire, right? So when it's saying that she will have a desire over her or for her husband, right? This is what it's really saying, okay? H7783, the root of this word, a primitive root to run after or over, okay? So, again, like I said, I ain't trying to, but sometimes it can be like that where it's like the Isha might want to run over or overflow, right? The Ish, right? Listen, I'm not, please don't look in the W and think that I'm talking about her. I am not, right? Like as far as luck goes, I think I struck about as lucky as a man can get. But yeah, nah, I can honestly say as far as luck goes, I got about as lucky as a man can get. Like I don't really have that issue like that, but I do know that it can be I've seen it. Like it can be a thing, right? And to overflow like water. Has anybody ever seen something be overflowed with water? Like you just run all over it, and then like if you ever see the path when like if you see like a flood or something like that, like after the water, like when it's finally made its pass, like everything that it was in the path of it is destroyed, right? So, and then H4910, mashal. This is the same word we looked at last week for ruling, right? To govern, to have dominion, to be a governor, but to have power. But like we said, that's not an abusive power. This is literally in the same way that the word is supposed to mashal over us. That's the way we're supposed to mashal over the woman. All right, so notice here how the desire has its root in overflowing or overtaking, right? Now, I'm going to point this one last thing out with that. 9 times out of 10, when the Isha, and I'm speaking of a woman in general, right? When that is what the case is and what the desire is, they usually have the best intentions, right? Like they're not, they don't see it as I'm trying to control the man, and I just like it's a lot of times it might be stemmed in some sort of fear. It might be stemmed in some sort of sometimes in some cases it can be trauma, that it's a trauma response. It can be a whole lot of things that can cause that type of desire to come out for the man. But to the men, you got to identify that. Don't get frustrated. Identify what it is, get to the root of it, and then govern over it. So I'm going to just throw that out there. All right, so in the case of Cain, sin is stretching out or pulling at him to overtake him. All right, so it's his job to rule over or have dominion over it so that it does not overtake him. This tugging and pulling is an aspect that will exist between desire and ruling from the garden forward. But when we do well, we are accepted, right? So as long as we stay within the guidelines, everybody stay within the guidelines of the Torah, then we receive blessings instead of cursing. But when we step outside of that, then that's when we start to have to deal with the cursing. All right, so 2 more slides, this one and one more. All right, so and Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. And Yahuwah said unto Cain, where is Abel, your brother? And he said, I know not. Am I to guard my brother? The word being used for guard is shamar. Okay. Then it says, and he said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries unto me from the ground. So notice how the cycle in the garden is now repeating, but there are some differences. Notice the sin takes place in the field. Where was the serpent? Where was the serpent from? The field, right? Okay. So the serpent brought something, right? It's okay, all praises. When the sin took place in the garden, being enticed by the beast from the field, Elohim asked his parents about what happened, giving them an opportunity to confess, right? Same thing taking place. Man, what have you done? What is this that you have done? They at least had confessed that they had erred, whereas Cain doesn't. Instead, when given the opportunity to come out of hiding, he chooses to hide the truth further. So also notice Elohim's reaction. It is intentionally reminiscent of what was said to the woman in the garden. All right, so Genesis 3 and 9. So it says, and Yahuwah Elohim called unto Adam and said unto him, where are you? Right? Where are you at? Or what did he say to Cain? Where's your brother? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. So we're going to start to see where he's different from his father, right? And Yahuwah Elohim said unto the woman, what is this you have done, right? And he said, what have you done? Because his response was, am I my brother's keeper? I don't know. And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me and I did eat, right? So they both, hey, well, the woman did tell me this, even though he asked for you, he asked for Adam for a reason, right? Like, he didn't say, Eve, where are you? He said, Adam, where are you? Right? So the responsibility ultimately is falling on him, right? And then the serpent said, hey, or the woman said, hey, the serpent, he deceived me, right? But the reality of it is that both of them had a seed that was in them, and they did what they wanted to do. That's the reality of it, right? Just like Cain is doing what he wanted to do, right? So notice what Cain's response was. This was a very unfortunate response because guarding his brother was his function. So we're going to keep getting back into understanding the Father's created, his divine created order, and his function. Because when we operate within that, we get blessing. But when we deviate from it, we get cursing, right? Everything it runs amok, it goes wrong, right? In Hebrew, the word for brother, what's the word for brother? Ak. All right. All praises. All right, so H251, Ak. All right, so a brother used in the widest sense of literal relationship and metaphorical affinity of resemblance, like H1. So H1 is the word Abba. All right, just to let you know. And there's something that's used similar. It's a similarity between a father and a brother, right? And eventually brothers become fathers and the family grows and grows, right? Okay, so there's a literal relationship. By literal, they're saying the words themselves, right? And a metaphorical affinity or resemblance. And the brothers look like the father. They inherit things from the father, okay? But then there's also a deeper thing at play here. Another brother, kindred, right? Compare also the proper names beginning with Ah or Ahi or Ach or Aki, like Achimelech is my brother is the king. That's what the name literally means. But anyways, I should have put the word for father up here as well. Anybody know? We all know the word for father is Ab, right? Do we know how to spell it in Hebrew? A-B-A-H. Them is English. That's English letters. I'm teasing. No, I'm teasing. Y'all right. Absolutely. A-B. It's many ways it is transliterated. No, Aleph Bet, right? Alphabet, right? Aleph Bet. First two letters of the Hebrew language, right? The A and the B. All right. So the A is a picture of an ox head. It's the same what we see up there, Aleph. If y'all look at how the language is, the ox head, if you look at that ox head upside down and draw all of those lines as straight lines, what letter do you get? Use the imagination. You get the letter A, right? So if you look, this is what they call pictographic or the proto-Canaanitic script, and it's all pictures and symbols, but then over time, they simplified it for the purposes of writing, and then they started to draw it with straight lines, and then that's when you get the Paleo Hebrew, and in the Paleo, the letter Aleph looks like an upside down A. Then you get to the Greek biting off of the Canaanite, which is the same reason why today we say phonics. Yeah, I know the phonics, the Phoenicians, are who the Greeks called the people that was in the land of Canaan. All right, so I just said a whole lot there, but just to know that the quote unquote, that's the reason why in Greek, Alpha is the same as Aleph, and Beta is the same as Bet. It's because they come from the same place. All right, the Greeks kind of bit off of our style. All right, they won't tell you that, but that's what happened. So, Aleph is a picture of a ox head, represents strength, right? In the case of the Bet, does anybody remember what the Bet represents for Ab? Say it again. It's a house. Pictograph is a picture of the house. I didn't put it up there, and I'm kicking myself in the behind for it. But the word for father is Aleph and Bet, the first two letters of the Hebrew alphabet, or Aleph Bet, and strong house, or literally the father is supposed to be the what? Strength of the house, right? So this is literally how the language works. Now we're gonna look at the word for brother. Now the father is the strength of the house, right? And if you got a house, you might want put a fence around your house, right? Because this is gonna protect the house, right? This is our word for Ak. A brother is Aleph and Het. All right, so same letter, the Aleph, ox head represents strength, and then you got the Het, which is a picture of a fence, represents protection. All right, so when he's asking a question, am I my brother's keeper? Quite literally, yes, you are. Right, New Jack City. Right, again, if you know, you know. Yes. Okay, yeah, all right. So, am I my brother's keeper? And the answer to that question is yes, you are, right? A Ak, the function of a brother and the function of an Ak, quite literally and pictographically, is to be a strong fence or a strong protector. That's what a brother does. He protects the house, his father's house. That's what he's supposed to do. So, yeah, with that being said, we over and we out. All praises. Hey. Questions? Anything like that before I ain't got nothing else to say, so.
I think Cain was just, I really couldn't understand it because you done killed your brother. Now you lying to the Most High. It's like, do you want to die now? You know what I mean? It's like, so in him had to be nothing but evil, because, you had no remorse about your brother, and then you're going to sit here and lie to the Most High like he don't know you lying, So when he said sin was at his doorstep, it was all up. It was more than that,
Mm-hmm.
It was all up in him.
Yeah, straight up. And we're going to see next week when we pick back up where we left off that it gets, like, Cain get his response gets worse, right? Like, because then now all of a sudden he done killed his brother, and then now all of a sudden he's the victim in this situation, right? Like, this punishment is more than I can bear. Like, he gonna end up being a victim in this situation. And it's like, how did we get here? So,
but even in all of that, you still see the mercy of the father. Like he lying and murdered, and it kicked him out of the house so he didn't have to kill him. And even though Cain is scared out there, he's wandering. Because he went to the land of Nod, which means wander.
Mm-hmm.
The Most High still spared him. He even gave him a little comfort, saying, "Hey, to put this sign on you, and anybody that touch Cain, he still comforted him." Mm-hmm. That's how great the Most High is. You know what I'm saying? And His mercy.
Kind. We're gonna see. We'll look at it a little bit next week because we're gonna see what he does with that. Like, because a curse is gonna come. The curse on his father is, hey, by the sweat of your brow you can get the good out of the land, But then on him, it's gonna be a little bit worse, right? A lot worse. It's gonna be like from here on, it will not produce any good for you. And it sounds like a reprobate, don't it? It's something in a reprobate state, like no matter how hard you try to bring forth good fruit, nothing good is gonna come out of you. So, yeah.
Yeah, so like he doubled down on it. He's like, well, I mean, if you would have accepted my that attitude, like, well, you chose his sacrifice over mine, and then you see that spirit continue in the Pharisees later on. But then to go back to Genesis, we, like I said, we have to be ready to kind of explain certain things that people are trying to come into the truth or just have questions and doubts. Well, where did Cain get his wife from when we get to that, right? Why weren't women or daughters put in the generations? Well, there's daughter of this and daughter of that.
All praises. We don't know how many daughters they had and how many years in between and how much. We don't know none of that part of it, at least off of the Genesis text, right? So it's people. Yeah, what Ak is touching on is that there's, just like we was talking about that can of worms earlier, with that thing, there's a whole nother can of worms that, like, it just gets worse and worse and worse, but it can logically be explained. We talk about people that's living almost 1,000 years. So we don't know how much time it is from point A to point B. We don't know how much time, and then we only hear about these two children from Adam and Eve up to this point. Then we're going to hear about one more in the next chapter, but it's like it was more than just that. So these are just the main ones we need to know about. So, yeah.
And like I always say, I think we should always just make sure we looking at ourselves, like how many times have we been angry or frustrated and we have done something or said something that I shouldn't have done that. But in the heat of the moment, you react. Now, hopefully, it doesn't get to the point where you murder somebody. But what I'm saying is that sometimes you can murder with your words, or you can do something or say something that will really hurt somebody because you're angry or frustrated. So once again, looking at ourselves in the mirror, let me make sure that I'm not acting that way, and not being, not having lack of self-control, but really controlling myself in every aspect, so I don't get to the point to where I'm like a Cain, and whether it's high or low, like you still can be that way if you're not careful, if you're not controlling yourself. So I just wanted to say that.
It's not at all difficult to do. Like, sometimes you can get caught in a wrong. Like it says in the book of Sirach that it, like, do not add sin unto sin. Like, but sometimes you can find yourself because of the flesh, you be in that state where it's like, I'm gonna stand on it. Like, I'm standing on business now. I'm here. So it's like, now that I'm here, it is what it is. And then next thing you know, it's like, instead of, you have all these opportunities to get it right and to stop, but hey, it's laws of nature, inertia. An object at rest wants to stay at rest, but an object in motion wants to stay in motion. So, and that's just a principle law of energy. So, yeah.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Sorry I'm fashionably late, but
Good to see you.
thank you. Good to be seen. So you were talking about Cain and Abel. I take.
Mm-hmm.
So did jealousy as cruel as the grave come up?
It didn't come up, no, but
Yeah, because that's what I think about between those two. It was a lot of jealousy, and that's what brought Cain to, well, them two being the first murders of humanity. But it's a lot of people that deal with jealousy. And so we can learn a lot from that. I'm sure going forward you're going to cover that too.
I might not.
Oh.
I might not, because I'm kind of trying to wrap up this chapter. I can get into the next.
Oh,
but,
okay.
It's an excellent point. Like,
Yes.
realistically, what I'm getting at today is just understanding the principle of the nature of the two seeds, right? So you have the seed of the word of the Father, which is going to bring forth the fruit of his ruach, and then you got the seed of your flesh, right? And for some, it might be jealousy. For some, it might be fits of rage. For some, it might be lust. For some, it might be I mean, like you said, they're manifest. We all know these. Stealing, whatever the case might be, right? You got to find out what that thing is for you, and you better rule over it before it rules over you, right? So yeah, go ahead, Doc.
When you when you get in chapter 5, are you going like? And I'm asking because I want to get a little bit more. How can I say clarification on the Noah being a redeemer of the curse of the ground?
All praises. So yeah, we gonna touch on that because there, like you said, you got to go and look at what Noah's name is, what it means, and that's literally part of his function.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, we're gonna look at well, chapter 5 is mainly genealogy, but we're gonna find something cool in that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll probably next week we'll probably cover 5 and 6. I'm thinking. Oh yeah. You know what? So yeah, maybe we'll just finish. You're right. We got to deal with his curse, with the curse that came on Cain. So we still got to deal with that. So yeah, I'm gonna finish that part, and then we'll look at 5, and then we'll probably touch on 6 too, and then get out of this first. We still in that first Parsha, y'all. This is still a first Torah portion. Like this is still the first one. We still on Parsha Bereshiyth. And we've been on this for weeks now, like over a month. We've been in it for weeks. So, yeah. So, yeah. After that, then we're gonna get into the next Parsha, and I don't want to. You're gonna start to find that these different segments are all grouped together thematically, like based off of a common theme. So everything that we seeing with Adam, Eve, creation, we finding the same pattern now repeating with Cain, Abel. Then we're going to start to get into the next Parsha, and you're going to start seeing it's a common thread throughout this whole Parsha. So, yeah. I can see your hands.
All praises. Hallelujah for another awesome study. If I would say anything for the Mishpachah this week, examine ourselves as far as, and just question it, just give yourself the question of if you allow it to rule you and not you rule it. When I say that is when we go through situations this week, are we going to allow that situation to rule over us, or are we going to have control of that situation? And I was given the example this week when I had, 2 weeks in a row, I had this thought. When I see this person, and it was just a flash. When I see this person, yeah, I'm going to say, man, you was immature, you was this, but you know what I had to do? Listen to the Ruach. Mm-hmm. The Ruach this morning was like, send this text message. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, rest, refresh, rejoice in Yahuwah today. Mm-hmm. And it was like, when you take what the adversary is desiring to do is to take you off that. But as soon as you do the righteous thing, mm-hmm. it's like, mm-hmm. It's so good to do right. Mm-hmm. It feels so good to do right, even when it goes against mm-hmm. what's trying to rule over you, which is you trying to hold something. You trying mm-hmm. to, when things try to come in to rule over you, take control of the situation. That's why we have to be sober. Be sober, but you have to be vigilant, because if you're not, you can be sober and still miss something. But if you vigilant, now I'm on guard. I'm in my right mind, but my instincts are like, mm-hmm. are here. So if anything, just this week, don't let thoughts come to devour you, to desire you, mm-hmm. but make sure you have rule over those thoughts. Another great message, teaching, great conversation. Those that's watching online, all praises to the Most High. Hope you receive everything that you wanted. Just understanding the nature of man, understanding when we look at ourselves as parents, why do we I tell my boys, I see Stephen in me. So guess what? I'm trying to warn Stephen before he makes the same mistakes I made. And but because we can see our children, we can see which one is going to be, you're going to be like me, you're going to be like your mama, you're going to be like me, you're going to be like your mama. You might be like your grandfather, I see. But you will see this, and we try and put that buffer in the beginning. But, yeah, just going forth through this week, may Yahuwah just be with us all. I'm glad to see family, friends, faces I have not seen before, but just a beautiful, beautiful teaching as we start from the beginning. And this has been fruitful for me. I also say I missed you all last Shabbat.
Likewise, Hawk.
It was like, I had a suit on, shirt, tie. I was like, oh, man, I got to get back home. But it was a beautiful, just to write down. My father took him to a minister's convocation. It was nice just to be with him. It was even better to even drive back from Kentucky, and we're listening to the teaching. And it was good to hear him. Who's that? Oh, that's Nadavia. Look, that's Ryan? Yeah. Who's that? And it was a beautiful thing for him to hear what's being taken, what's being taught, and the knowledge and the wisdom that the Father has placed. He was like, Alon, man, he's a really good teacher. I'm like,
it was like they say, if I can get to the point where your pops is at, all praises.
Hey, it's just yeah, so with that being said, I just thank the Father. Quick, I sent this into the Archean chat, but this week, last Sunday, went to a restaurant that I did not want to go to. It was like a Greek, where they sell like hummus and gyro and white sauce, stuff that I don't eat. But and there was a Chinese place right next door, so I said, you know what? You can't go wrong with General Soul. But as I was looking at the menu, I ended up going into this Greek place, Aladdin. We in Westchester. And when I sat down, as soon as I sat down, I hear Exodus 20th chapter, verse 1. So, it was a Caucasian couple talking to another lady. So I'm sitting here like, I want to see when he get to the Sabbath. Yeah, see what he gonna say then. And when he got to the Sabbath, he said, we got to keep the Shabbat. We're commanded to keep the Shabbat. And I'm sitting right behind him, so I just...
That's right.
So I couldn't say that. They were like, oh, you are one of those. But I turned around. He was like, can I help you? I was like, oh, no, I'm just listening. So literally, I turned back around. And he started talking some more, like, maybe we commanded to do this, and that cross, we can't have no images. And I turned back around again. And I had this smile on my face, and he was like, brother, can I help? I said, you cooking? And he is like, are you a believer of Yahuwah? Yahushua? I was like, yeah, my praises. And Jenny, his fiance, started clapping. She was like, hallelujah. And I'm like, all praises. And then he was talking to his sister-in-law. And he said, I told her this is the last time I would bring this up as far as keeping Torah. And so I was able to, in an awkward position, because I'm turned, but just to speak on the importance of the Shabbat, how this was a sign between he and his people, and how, it just went, and I'm like, I know the sister-in-law was like, what in the world, how the chances of they're telling me about to keep the Torah, then this brother is sitting right there and jumps in the conversation like, yeah, keep
Allow
the
for
Torah.
2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established.
It's established. So it was a beautiful, he called me Ak.
All praise.
And I was like, oh, this is really, okay, all praise. So we reached out this week. We talked. He sent me their YouTube link that he teaches every Shabbat. I didn't tell him much about me, except for I'm a believer. And sometimes you let your light so shine before men that, Yahuwah gets the glory. And even to the point that, we talked yesterday, and he was like, man, I know it's blah, 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 and I had to call Eugene. Because he was like, man, it'd be an honor. Now, granted, I didn't tell this man nothing except for this is our link. And he was like, got a serious question. So I'm thinking, oh, he would have asked, are we Israel? That's in my head. Then he was like, man, me and Jenny, we'd like for you to marry us. I was like,
Jesus.
yo. I was like, just know my name. I didn't tell him nothing, but I was like, all praise if that's a light that was shown to them. But I'm like, I'm not. I have no certificates. But he was like, he wanted Hebraic.
Hey, all praises.
So I came just did one. So I called him. I said, hey, do you marry Yashar? Yeah. I said, all right, yeah. But just how Yahuwah do things, especially when, someone even told me last week, like, man, don't you see everything that you've been going through? Yah's hands always still been there. And sometimes we forget. Sometimes we dwell on the past, but we don't understand how do we get to this present part. And yeah, I said this kind of, you couldn't make it up. Like, I'm going to sit here at this point, and as soon as I sit down, this man is speaking, teaching Exodus 20th chapter, verse 1. And I almost went into judgment mode because I was like, when we get to that 4th command, what are you going to say?
See how he tap dance around that.
Yeah. And I was waiting for him to be like, yeah, that's Sabbath day, but, let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
But for him to say that and, it cost me Ak, South Carolina. I'm like, this is some things you just can't make up. You're from South Carolina? He's from South Carolina. His fiance is in Cincinnati. So I was like, he's a truck driver. So I said, okay, I got a brother for you, Yakana. You're right. I will not do that.
Shalom, Mark.
Shalom. But have something to say? Oh, praise.
Shalom.
Shalom.
First and foremost, I want to say amazing teaching. And it really touched me. It really spoke to me because I didn't have the intentions of even getting on the mic. And because I've been so set with, how I've been feeling. And this whole week, it was really on my heart to just sit still, be to myself, isolate myself. And that's what I did. I didn't answer no phone calls from family members or really nobody. And people were like, you okay? You all right? You okay? And yeah, I'm fine. But it's just on my heart to just really sit still and really be at peace with my thoughts and the Most High. And that's what I did. And a lot has been revealed to me. A lot of people have been cut out of my life that I don't need anymore, that he confirmed that I didn't need anymore, that I felt that I needed. And the one person that I did felt like didn't have any ill intentions, I allow my emotions to get the best of me because of a small situation. And that's what the devil wanted, was for me to just be like, okay, you don't need that person because this person said this person did that. But we all fall short and we all do things that we're not proud of, even myself. And I do want to extend an apology to you because it's on my heart that say I was wrong for not accepting your apology,
Hallelujah.
for not responding the way that the Most High would respond. So my apologies to you. And also, I just want to say that me just being one with my thoughts really just made me see things a whole lot clearer, and I'm seeing things that I've never seen before within myself that I don't know I need to work on, because I thought, sorry to say, I thought I was perfect, but I'm not. But I know nobody's perfect, but in my head, like, I ain't do no wrong. Who, me? Not Jessica. But yes, you, Jessica. Yes, you. You do wrong too, and you not perfect. So I most definitely am understanding myself a little bit better and understanding what I need to work on a little bit better. And I did get emotional this week a lot. I've been in my house just crying and praying and just going through it. But you got to go through it to get to it. So.
All praises. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, all praises. All praises.
This is an example of sometimes when we have to just shut yourself in, separate yourself, hear from Yah, focus on me. It's a time where, sometimes you get in a situation where it's just you and the Most High. And when you come before the King, you got to be like, I got to examine myself. I have to make sure before I go to the King, before I dwell, before I sit, before I do anything, I'm right. And once you start doing that, now you can focus on that inner self, that inner being that we war with. You either can be Cain or you can be Abel. You either can be a righteous sacrifice or you can be a one that stinks in his nostril. Mm-hmm. So I thank Yah for just how he moves. Look, Yahoo is great. I mean, I don't want to prolong, but we just have to just get into a point where we can just self-examine. Ak said, man, we about to be back in first month. We about to be in Abib. Yeah. Once again, we're going to be doing what? Examining ourselves. What leavening has crept up in our systems already, and we just came out the 7th month. Mm-hmm. But it's the grace that, once again, we have another opportunity to what? Repent. Let's get this back. This is starting, this little leavening in me right now that's trying to level up, trying to rise up. If you don't get a control over it, guess what? It'll consume you. Mm-hmm. And as we said, sin adds on sin. We're going to start bringing more sin onto you. And now that thought of, not situation, but it could be a simple situation that grows from a disagreement to hatred in your heart, from hatred to wrath, anger. And the adversary is like, man, all I want to do is just consume you. But I think, Yahuwah, that you have the mind like, no, if I don't get this, let me get this correct now. And sometimes, a lot of times when we go through this, it's not as bad.
Mm-hmm. Both of them that had the patience with each other. Both of them that had the patience with each other. It's not like this way you have.
Come.
Did it openly with her friend. Made amends. I'm glad I was here to witness it.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, all praises.
So this is just, sometimes the Father shows his approval. The sun is set. The word is going forth. And sometimes this is what the reconciliation, this is where the praise that goes to Yahuwah. This is the time where the praise and the dancing and the shouting and rejoicing should take place. Not when nothing has been said, not because I said God is good and we dance, but when the word has gone forth and when you see the movement and people are stirred, and this is the time to praise Yah. I'm supposed to be able to pronounce. I don't even want to switch to Cash App, House of God, House of Refuge. I don't want to switch to it, but House of Refuge, Dayton, Ayana Holloman is the name. But I just thank y'all for the peace that's in this place. I'm going to turn the hands back into you, Ak.
Praises.
But real quick, Kim. Yes. I'm just going to play a song real quick as we close out. It's just for your goodness.
And your mercy toward us, for your goodness 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 and your mercies toward us, for your goodness and your mercies toward us. We offer praise.
praises. Like, one, we gotta get back to that. Two, and I'm proud of y'all. What y'all don't know is that the situation has been heavy on my heart. So it's like a double. It's a praise to the Father for real. Like, this is all praises. Like, not only is it a barakah and a blessing to y'all, it's a blessing to the people around y'all. We all mishpakai. When one part of the body suffers, everybody suffers. So, literally, for me, it's more of a confirmation for me to say, oh no, the Father, he's on the situation. So, all praises. All praises. Hallelujah. Yeah, all praises. All right. All praises. All praises. Minds and hearts clear. Abba Yahuwah, we give you thanks, honor, and esteem. We praise your name, Father, this day. We're just thankful, Father. We're thankful for your word and thankful for all of the ways that you are compassionate, long-suffering, steadfast, and mercy. We thank you, Father, for teaching us how to be the same with one another. We know that your word says that if we can't give it, we can't receive it. So we thank you. We know that the Malachim, the angels, rejoice when we turn back to you. Give you thanks, honor, and esteem. I just pray, Father, that as we continue to examine ourselves, that we continue to look within, search out the depths of our hearts, and anything that is not like you, Father, we just pray that those are the things that are cast out of us, and that we just take on more of your ways. Show us as you see us. Don't leave us as children without a father, but instead, let your Ruach fill us, guide us, and lead us back to all truth. Thank you, Father, for the deliverance and the power, the might, the strength that comes through your word, through your spirit. We rejoice this day, Father. We all just want to be counted worthy so that we can enter in and have right again to that tree of life. So let us all continue to, as we move forward throughout this week, not only physically being sheltered and physically being protected, but let us guard the gates of our hearts, guard the gates of our minds. Let us protect over our ground. Let us examine and make sure that no enemy has continue to be planted deep within us, that we might bring forth fruit 100-fold. Give you all thanks, honor, and esteem in the name of Mashiach Yahusha. We say hallel to you, Yahuwah. Amen. Let it be so.
That's what he called him, Mr.